Okay, we got a fight on our hands, people. I'm gonna shoot that fat turd in the belly.
I heard that, Bob Todd.
I hope you did, you butt licker.
I think I've brought it up like once or twice on this channel before, but I really like American Dad. Out of the big three adult animated family sitcoms that are still running, being this, Family Guy, and Simpsons, American Dad, to me at least, is by far the best, and the only one that I think stayed more or less consistently funny for its entire run. Sure, there's some episodes I like less than others, but I don't think I can say there's any episodes I honestly dislike, especially in the newer seasons. In the first few seasons, American Dad was a satire of American culture and politics, with Stan being a conservative CIA agent who would often clash with his liberal daughter Haley, with a lot of the episodes centering around their conflicting beliefs and opinions, until in the later seasons where the show kind of stopped using Stan's job as a CIA agent to show his patriotism to more of a vehicle for wacky hijinks like time travel or cloning, and gradually turned into what I can only describe as a 20-minute syndicated shitpost, and I mean that in the best way possible. Just watch the season 13 episode Flavortown, and you'll get what I mean. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like.
That, my friend, would put the shabalaba in ding dong.
Another thing that I think makes American Dad great is the Christmas specials, which I got a lot of love for. I used to unironically get hyped if I knew these were coming on. So I thought with Christmas coming up, now would be a good a time as any to rank all of them from worst to best for you guys. Before I get into it, I just want to say that this isn't an objective list, just what I think, so your favorites might be different from mine, which is totally fine, it's just my dumb little opinion. I don't think I gotta drop lore on American Dad since it's such a popular show, but I'm gonna do it anyway because the longer I work on a video, the less time I have to deal with my own life, so we're gonna go for it. Show creator Seth MacFarlane got the idea right after the 2000 election, since he and co-creator Matt Weitzman were pissed about the Bush administration and they just spent days complaining about it and figured they could make something out of it. In the early 2000s, Seth asked if Matt and Mike Barker would be interested in working on a show about a right-wing CIA agent and his liberal daughter, and on September 14, 2003, Variety reported that Fox Broadcasting had ordered a pilot presentation of the then titled American Dad, and if greenlit, American Dad would launch in late 2004, since at the time Fox was aiming to develop a new lineup of adult animated sitcoms.
And introducing American Dad. Global's got it Sunday starting at 8, 7 Central.
Now, this is technically going to be 3 rankings in one, since I'm going to rank all the specials together, and that'll be my official rankings of which ones I think are best. Then I'll do 2 quickfire split rankings of the connected ones and the ones that don't fit into the weird Christmas storyline they got going on, which I'll explain more later. But for now, grab some Ballers Blend Punch and your old high school javelins, and let's get into the American Dad Christmas specials.
Hanukkah's always been second fiddle to Christmas. We don't have any catchy songs or Santa or anything. This is a tough time of the year for us.
Are there or have there ever been other tough times for Jewish people?
Yes.
At the bottom of our list, we have Season 15 Santa Schmanta, which, while not totally awful, is by far my least favourite out of all of them. This is a Roger episode, which are usually pretty funny, but I really couldn't get jiggy with this one. Roger's annoyed that the Smiths are too focused on Christmas and aren't paying attention to him. He learns about Hanukkah from Snot and tries to make it more popular than Christmas with the powers he gets from Santa's suit. Oh yeah, Santa's dead at this point in the show. Don't worry, I'll explain it later. This episode really wasn't fun for me, which might have been because I was tired of watching American Dad at that point, but after another rewatch, I can safely say that I just really don't enjoy it. I don't have too much to say about this one because it's pretty boring. I'm sure there's a few good jokes, but I mostly just missed or weren't that funny. I really didn't care for any of the songs in this episode either, which isn't a good sign since I usually love the songs in American Dad, but this episode really missed a mark for me. Let's just hope they get better as we get higher up on the list. They do, by the way. Obviously, this is like the first episode we've talked about.
Sir, the nozzle's still in the tank. It's okay, we're single. You guys are awesome!
This episode is only just above Santa Schmanta, but that's just because any episode with Principal Lewis in can't be at the bottom of the list. I'm pretty sure that's like the law or something.
End of days! Bitches!
Stan wants the bachelor's life like Principal Lewis, and he gets his wish granted, but after seeing that since he has Principal Lewis's life, Lewis has his, he realizes that a single life ain't all it's cracked up to be. This episode was definitely funnier than Santa Schmanta, and the plot was a lot more interesting. Sort of giving me Meet the Quagmires vibes a little bit.
I'm Glenn Quagmire.
I think it's a neat premise for an episode, and I thought it was a pretty cool twist that the Smiths aren't Stan's real family, but now that I think about it, I don't know if I really like it. Outside of that, this is a pretty decent episode. Nothing special though. There's a few good jokes sprinkled in there, but there's nothing that really stands out to me. One thing that kind of bugged me about is the weird smile Stan and Roger do. I don't know, it just throws me off a little.
Yeah! What are you doing, Stan?
Looking for the words. The words usually appear.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my god, I think I'm losing it.
Check your jacket pocket.
No.
This one is barely a Christmas episode. This is one of only 2 specials that has a B-plot which has nothing to do with Christmas, and honestly, I prefer it to the main story here. Stan has to find out who forgot to bring a gift to the CIA's evil Santa party. It's him, Stan. Stan forgot. While Steve starts a dating service for girls who want their parents to think they're dating a good boy. I think both plots are pretty enjoyable, they're funny and all the jokes land quite well. I think we're finally getting into the episodes that I say were actually good, or at least the episodes I wouldn't mind watching again. The main plot is a Stan and Roger story, which are always entertaining, even the bad episodes. They've got pretty good chemistry, like almost as good as early Stewie and Brian. I definitely prefer Steve's B-plot over the main one, but I gotta say, it kind of ends on a nothing note, which sucks. But a Steve episode is a welcome one, so it's all good. Back to what I said earlier, this definitely feels the least like a Christmas episode. I'm only adding it here because technically it takes place on Christmas.
Merry Christmas from our family to yours. Wait a minute, is this our Christmas episode? What month is this?
I feel like I'm saying that's a bad thing, but it really doesn't change the quality of the episode. With all the other episodes, Christmas is the main focus of the story. This one just happens to take place on Christmas, which is totally fine. Either way, definitely a solid episode.
Dad, can you please not?
Francine, silence the boy!
I originally thought about putting this a little higher up, but looking back, there's a lot more I don't like about this episode than stuff I do. The Smiths discover a list where Snot is ranked in terms of attractiveness. Right off the bat, I love this being the driving force of the episode. It's just so ridiculous and hilarious how this one weird random thing causes both plots to start. Being ranked number 1, Stan attempts to make a fashion magazine about himself, while Roger's confidence is shattered because he's last on the list. After his annual sex party is stolen by Tuttle, Roger becomes a Grouch, a knockoff of the Grinch. Let's start off with what I don't like about this episode. Both plots kinda lose steam towards the end for me, and the episode becomes way less entertaining. And I get it, if you're gonna do a Grinch parody, you're probably gonna do the song too, but I really couldn't get into it. The whole "this is an original character" part was funny, but I feel like the rest just drags on for way too long, and that could have been the whole song on its own. Now, onto what I actually enjoyed about the episode. I like that we get to see a lot more secondary characters like Tuttle, Snot, and Barry, and a lot of the other characters that show up throughout the episode, which is always fun to see. This is a pretty funny episode too. Even when it starts getting less entertaining, it still didn't fail to at least make me laugh. It all depends on how you personally feel about parody episodes, though.
I had a gun?
Happy holidays!
Here we are, the one that started it all. It's a little weird to me that we got our first Christmas special 3 seasons in, but it's better not having any, I guess. Stan is visited by the ghost of Christmas past after he declares that Christmas has been ruined by people who say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. While he's in the past, he attempts to assassinate Jane Fonda, who he blames for all this, and accidentally creates a future where the US has been taken over by the Soviet Union. This is like classic American Dad. Stan's conservative opinions are challenged, weird shit happens, and then he learns an important lesson and changes. But it really surprised me how well this one holds up next to modern episodes. This one's pretty funny. Sure, a few jokes don't land, but the ones that do are great. Glad to see the show didn't start the special with a stinker.
Forgive us! You will bow down before me, Son of God!
This is chronologically the second special, and I definitely think it's an improvement for the most part. Stan is unhappy with how his family have decorated for Christmas, and he wants a bigger tree. When he goes out and finds a massive one and chops it down, it falls on him and kills him. While in limbo, he has to go to court to help him try to get a second chance at life. I think my only issue with this episode is that Stan is needlessly unlikable. Like, in a few of these specials, he's kind of a dick, but I think this is definitely him at his worst. But other than that, this is a great episode. Stan's lawyer Michelle is a really fun character. It's weird because she has the same name as the Ghost of Christmas Past from the episode before this one. Not sure what that's about, super weird coincidence. This episode also has some insane VAs for minor roles, like J.K. Simmons and Jane Lynch only have like a handful of lines and aren't even that important to the episode. Despite how much of an arsehole Stan is for the first half of the episode, it's nice to see how much he really cares about his family in the second half. I think that's one of my favourite things about these episodes. The majority are just about how much the family loves each other.
Let's leave Jeff in the pod. We'll be right back and he'll be safer there.
Good thinking, Haley. Surf's up, Jeffrey! Hiya!
Okay, we're halfway through and finally talking about the episodes that follow the Santa storyline. I know I've technically already talked about 1 or 2 that do, but none of those really focus on it as much as this one. As Christmas is getting closer, the Smiths get ready to go into stasis in order to be safe from Santa. Sad that he's missing out on Christmas, Steve runs away to ride a Christmas train, only to be kidnapped and enslaved by Santa. The family get help from Stan's dad, who's now Krampus, again I'll explain later, to get to the North Pole in order to help Steve and stop Santa from resurrecting the giant from the Epic of Gilgamesh. See, this is exactly what I was talking about at the start of the video. This is such a ridiculous idea for an episode and I love it. I like that they actually give a reason for Santa to live in the North Pole. It's a quick little joke, but it's a nice piece of world building and it makes sense for the story. The different art style when he's telling the story of Gilgamesh looks really cool too.
I'm texting with my brother from another mother, Jurgen, right now, and he's freaking out. Some blackmailers hacked his webcam, and he didn't pay up, so they sent a video of him cranking it to his entire contact list.
At number 6, we have Yuletide Repeat, which when it first came out, I didn't really enjoy. No idea why, since when I watched it for this video, I really enjoyed it. Stan wishes his family were normal so he could have a Norman Rockwell Christmas. I don't know who Norman Rockwell is. The Smiths go to the mall for a Christmas tree lighting, the tree catches fire and everyone dies except Stan, who gets stuck in a time loop until he can figure out what lesson he needs to learn to end it and save his family. I think this is a really cute episode, honestly. Sure, at the start Stan is his usual asshole self like in most of these episodes, but when he figures out how to stop the loop and spends time with Steve, Haley and Francine one by one, it's really sweet. I think I prefer the show over Family Guy because unlike the Griffins, the Smiths feel like a real family. There's a really cool reference to that Ghost Ship movie, which I couldn't remember the name of for the life of me. So I just had to look up that one ghost movie with a wire just to make sure I was thinking about the right movie. The episode has a hilarious resolution too, which they kind of foreshadow at the beginning of the episode, which I thought was pretty smart.
Your body is a fart machine that runs on eggnog.
You're Fart Simpson. Don't have a cow. Don't have any dairy.
This video would have came out like a day earlier if it wasn't for this episode. I finished the script and was just about ready to start recording, but I decided to wait so I could add this one. And now I've only got like 4 days left to record and edit it all until Christmas. Luckily, this pain in the ass of an episode redeemed itself and managed to get number 5 on the list. Into the Jingleverse kinda worried me before it even came out. See, before the episode came out, when all we had was the name of the episode and the description, I honestly thought this was going to be another Multiverse episode, which we already had this season. Looking back, I probably looked way too deep into it, since my only evidence to back it up was a title, a reference to Into the Spider-Verse, and a single image I saw of the episode where the Smiths are in 3D. Honestly, I'm a little tired of all the multiverse stuff we've had in the last like 5 years, so I braced myself for the worst. But luckily, this episode was actually pretty good. Stan gets worried that Steve will take his title as King of Presents after he gives him a better gift than the one that he gives Steve. So Stan goes to Santa to get Steve a sold-out VR headset. Right off the bat, this is probably the episode with the most modern references in, which I usually don't really like, but this episode managed to pull it off pretty well, using the metaverse as an important piece of the story and not just a punchline. Sure, they mentioned the website Cameo as a one-off gag, but that honestly took me so off guard and made me laugh pretty hard, so I gotta give it a pass.
Hey Haley, it's me, DeAndre Aiden. I heard you're quite the hooper.
It was really cool to see Stan and Santa just talking in this episode too. These guys have been trying to kill each other for years now, and it was really fun to see them just talking and hanging out as friends. Even though Santa was just trying to trick Stan, it's still a shame that we didn't get to see any more of it. The actual Jingleverse was really interesting to me too, because it purposefully looked bad, but I don't know, something about it looked kinda good. I don't know, either way I liked it. I'm interested to see what happens next. The ending gives way to a lot of possibilities for the next Christmas episode, definitely looking forward to it.
Santa Claus.
Oh, come on. He's jolly. He employs midgets. He's real.
Look, these Bratz dolls. Last year he gave them to me for free.
Up next, we have Season's Beatings, which is another banger of an episode. Haley and Jeff adopt a child who's actually the Antichrist, who Stan has to kill after he's excommunicated from Christianity after he beats up Roger, who's dressed as Jesus for the community play. This episode feels somewhat smaller than most of the other specials, and I mean that in the best way possible. The other episodes can sometimes feel like the stakes are higher, like the last few episodes on the list. Obviously, there's stakes in this episode. I mean, they're trying to kill the Antichrist, but somehow it just feels a lot more grounded, which I really liked. This is also one of the few episodes where Jeff is one of the main characters, which I wish we could have had more of, because we haven't really got much of Jeff and Haley in these episodes. Speaking of characters, we also get a lot of Father Donovan in this episode, which is nice to see. One cool thing is that Andy Samberg comes back to voice Nemo at the end of the episode, which makes this sort of a prequel to Rapture's Delight.
I wanted to spend Christmas with my husband.
I do not want him in our band. There's no instruments for him to play, right, Bob Todd?
He can play the skin flute.
Oh.
Finally, at the top 3, honestly, there's an argument for any of these episodes in which could be number 1. Hell, these episodes are probably in my top 10 for episodes in general. Steve accidentally shoots at a real Santa Claus after Stan buys him a gun, and Roger goes on a quest to find the world's strongest moonshine. Santa revives and tries to kill the Smith family. This is the only other episode where Jeff is actually an important character, as Stan refuses to accept him into the family. We get a couple of really good scenes with him and Stan. I feel like this is definitely the point where Jeff becomes a definitive character in the show too. This episode is the beginning of the whole Santa versus the Smith storyline, and honestly, this is a perfect start. It sets up so much, and I'd say this is a perfect example of what the foundation of an arc in a TV show should be.
Oh my God! The homeless guy from the bus station is hung. But I knew that.
This would probably be number 1 on everybody's list of the show's specials, maybe even the show's entire run, and for good reason. Rapture's Delight is peak American Dad. On Christmas, the world is raptured. Stan and Francine have been left behind because they were doing it in a church, and Roger's left behind because, you know, he's Roger. Stan leaves Francine, who's married Jesus, and after a 7-year time skip, Stan's this badass grizzled nomad. And when Francine is kidnapped by the Antichrist, Jesus seeks Stan's help to save her. I totally get why people love this episode. I personally love shit like this. Post-apocalyptic settings are always a blast to watch. Stan's new design is awesome, and I wish we could have seen more. This was originally going to be part of a 3-episode saga, but they chose to condense it all into 1 episode, and don't get me wrong, they did a great job. I just feel like they could have done so much more with these characters in this setting. I suppose I can't really complain since they did another Apocalypse episode in the 300, and that's a great episode. The art in this episode is awesome. From the red skies in the backgrounds to the demons that Stan and Jesus fight all look amazing. The synthy Blade Runner music fits in this episode perfectly, and oh my god, the illustrated scenes look gorgeous. We got to see Michelle come back too, which I thought was a really nice touch. This is just a fun episode, and I wish we got to see more. Maybe somewhere down the line we could get like a Tales from the Rapture type episode where we get to see what Stan was doing during the 7 years of the Rapture. Now, I'm sure you thought this would be number 1, and it totally could have been, if it wasn't for this 1 episode.
You did what? I released Krampus. I just wanted him to scare Steve straight. Sexual orientation is not a choice!
Here we are at number 1 with Minstrel Krampus, and man does it deserve it. Stan releases Krampus in order to teach Steve a lesson who's become a spoiled little asshole during Christmas. And Krampus kidnaps Steve in order to lure Stan's dad Jack out for revenge for trapping him years ago. Stan goes to the North Pole to request help from Santa to rescue Steve. I can't put into words how much I love this episode, but I got this far into the video so I might as well try. It's so refreshing to have somebody other than Stan be the main focus of one of these episodes. I think it's the only proper musical one too. Sure, Santa Schmanta had some songs, but this one is so much better. All the songs in this episode are so good, like I'll unironically listen to Krampus' songs every so often. Haley's song is kinda ass, but other than that, they're all bangers. It's nice to see Jack make a comeback in this episode too, and it was cool to see Santa and Stan working together. The storybook art style they use in this episode looks great too. My only issue with this episode is Steve is a dick out of nowhere, which is totally out of character for him. A lot of good jokes and a great song come out of it though, so I can't really complain. And now it's time to talk about the best thing about this episode. Krampus fucking rocks. Danny Glover did a great job voicing him here. He's such an entertaining character to watch, and I wish we got more of him instead of Stan's dad turning into him after Santa kills him. And I haven't even gotten started on his singing. Charles Bradley is incredible here, and his songs are just so good. Go listen to him after this episode, and I promise you won't regret it. You Get the Rod is unironically so good. The whole sequence is really entertaining to watch. And that about wraps up the ranking of the American Dad Christmas specials. Okay, I'm going to give a quick rundown of the whole arc put together, and then I'll get onto the 2 mini rankings. I'm only going to include episodes that focus on the Santa storyline, so episodes that mention the events or episodes that are mentioned in the Santa episodes won't be counted. It starts with Season's Beatings, where Steve accidentally shoots Santa. Santa recovers and wages war against the Smiths and Bob Todd, but before he can kill him, he has to return to the North Pole and vows to get him next year, starting a new tradition for the Smiths. 3 seasons later, with Minstrel Krampus, Steve is acting like a little shit, which causes Stan to take him to see his grandpa Jack in prison, and tells him about how he trapped Krampus in a copper pot and left him in the Smith's basement. Stan releases him, and he kidnaps Steve and takes him to his castle in Bavaria in return for Jack. Stan gets his dad out of prison so he can help him go rescue Steve, but he double-crosses him and leaves. Stan's only option is to seek help from Santa, so he and Roger go to the North Pole to find him. Santa agrees to help and put Smiths on the good list for good, on the condition that he gets to kill Krampus. Meanwhile, Steve befriends Krampus and realizes that he's the good guy and only wants Jack so he can apologize to him. While this is happening, Haley is working at the airport to make money for a Christmas present for the family and sees Jack about to get on a flight to Jamaica and convinces him to rescue Steve. Stan and Santa storm Krampus' castle, and after a hilarious montage of killing household items, Santa kills Krampus, reveals that he was the bad guy the whole time and was going to kill him anyway and shoot Stan. Jack jumps through the window and stabs Santa in the stomach with his ski, taking a bullet for his son. Jack's blood mixes with Krampus's and Jack becomes the new Krampus. In 90 North, 0 West, the episode starts with a child working in a mine who finds a mysterious egg-shaped stone, which is taken to Santa, who now has one of the stones he needs. Cut to the Smith house where the family have been replaced with dummies while the real Smiths are preparing to go into stasis pods to hide from Santa. Upset that he's missing out on Christmas, Steve puts his dummy in the stasis pod and sneaks out. The Smiths find out that he left to ride the Christmas train, but they arrive too late to stop the ride. The train comes back without any kids on it, and all the parents wait and have forgotten that their children even exist. They find out from an elf that was banned from the North Pole that all of the children have been kidnapped by Santa. They go to Baltimore to find Stan's dad, who's Krampus but is retired and now just a bus driver, but still has Christmas magic and able to travel to the North Pole. Cut to Steve, who's in the same mines from the start of the episode, but thinks this is all some kind of immersive simulation or something, until he sees some elves throw a kid off the mine and runs into Santa, who captures him and is about to kill him but is saved by his family. They also get captured until his workers find a second stone and Santa just lets him go, until he decides to change his mind. Santa then explains that the stones are actually the eyes of the Sumerian giant Humbaba, and when he places them back into his eye sockets he'll become all powerful. However, the plan backfires when the power goes straight back into Humbaba, who reawakens and sucks in most of Santa's workshop, and Santa himself. The Smiths manage to escape and kill the giant. I guess Santa Schmanta happens too. Fine, I guess I'll make this quick. Santa emerges from the severed head of Humbaba and breaks his neck and dies. We cut to the Smiths, and Roger's sad that the family aren't paying attention to him because they're too focused on Christmas. Snot introduces him to Hanukkah and he takes it over with the power of Santa's suit that he took from his corpse. Snot and the Smiths, who are tired of Roger, revive Santa so he can take Christmas back from Roger, and he swears revenge on the Smiths again. Okay, last one. In Into the Jingleverse, Stan seeks help from Santa and getting a VR headset for Steve because they're all sold out everywhere, and Santa shows Stan his Jolly Goggles, a virtual reality headset based on the one Steve wanted that lets people spend perpetual Christmas whenever they want. Stan wants to give him to Steve, but Santa says they're not ready, but tells Stan he could get the Smiths to be beta testers without their knowledge, so they secretly bring him to the North Pole. They wake up in what looks like the Money for Nothing music video and try to remove the goggles, but find out they're fused to their face, and Santa reveals that he plans on giving the goggles to everybody on Earth. Stan starts brapping because of the eggnog Santa gave him, and he gets the family sent to Jingle Jail Island, and Stan realizes that Santa must be in the room with him since he can smell the farts too. So Stan finds his way around the room and starts slapping the shit out of him. Santa offers Stan to join him and leave his family in the Jingleverse, but he turns it down. Then Stan convinces the elves to take over for Santa and free him, which they agree to, with one elf, Guthrie, becoming the new Santa. The Smiths are then rescued by Rogu and Klaus. Whew, that was a lot, but that's about it for now. The ranking for these episodes goes Santa Schmanta, obviously, 90 North, 0 West, Into the Jingleverse, Minstrel Krampus, and Season's Beatings. I think Minstrel Krampus is probably the best episode, but if we're talking about all of the episodes as a cohesive story, you can't beat the OG. I said it earlier, but it's honestly such a great opening episode and starting point for the episodes to come after. And my ranking for the rest of them is Dreaming of a White Porsche Christmas, Gift Me Liberty, The Grouch, The Best Christmas Story Never Told, The Most Adequate Christmas, Yuletide Repeat, and at number 1, Rapture's Delight. Which again, like I said earlier, easily could have been number 1 on the entire list. It's such a great episode, and if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. If you got this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun with this one. Getting to go back and watch these was pretty time consuming, but I definitely had a good time. It was fun watching these episodes in chronological order and seeing how the show evolved over time in the writing and animation. It was getting kind of tricky since I don't think any of these episodes were especially bad. Plus, since I was watching one right after the other, I was getting kind of tired of American Dad, which I tried to make sure didn't affect my opinion on the later episodes, and I really don't think it did. I went back and watched them while writing this part, and yeah, I think I got it about right. I realized most of the episodes have the same pattern. Stan is a dick, Stan does something stupid, then learns a lesson. Which makes sense since that's pretty much the plot for most Christmas movies I've seen, but then again, I've only seen like 2, so my opinion isn't worth shit. But that's all I've got for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if your ranking's any different to mine in the comments. Happy holidays, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
You better be good, boys and girls, or I'll beat you until blood's coming from your ears and your eyes and your mouth. Merry Christmas! And from your ass.